Hey, good evening. I'm Brian Manning. I'm a political asylum lawyer, and my law firm helps people all over the United States to secure their future in America through asylum. I'm going to answer your asylum questions. So go ahead, start leaving them in the comments. Tell me hello, tell me where you're watching from. Love to hear where you guys are as we begin these discussions. So say hello, let me know where you are. You can go ahead and start leaving questions in the comments. I'm going to say a couple words though before I get to your questions about something that came up today. So I was talking with a federal public defender, someone who may want to get my help as an expert witness on an issue related to asylum, and it concerns a person who thought that they had asylum, thought they had legal immigration status because they had an asylum application pending. And this belief state, this idea that they thought they had legal status, is relevant to their criminal case. Long story behind that. But the key question here is whether it was reasonable for this person to think that they had legal status, like to believe, oh no, I've got legal status in the United States. I've got an immigration status. And it reminded me that I hear this all the time from asylum applicants, people who've already applied for asylum. This idea of, oh no, I'm good. I've got status. I've got my application pending. I'm cool. I've got status. So actually, I got to tell you, having an asylum application pending is not the same thing as having lawful immigration status in the United States, okay? There is no status called asylum pending. People use that phrase all the time. In fact, I use it sometimes too, but it does not mean that there's actually a legal status, immigration status called asylum pending, okay? Now, here's the distinction. Here's the thing. You do have permission to remain in the United States. There's no law that gives you this permission. It's not an official status. However, USCIS, in fact, the Department of Homeland Security. So USCIS falls under DHS. Department of Homeland Security is up here, and then there are a bunch of different components like USCIS and ICE and CBP. And it's the policy of DHS to not try to deport people while they have their asylum case pending, to at least give them a chance to have their asylum claim heard, right? And when you apply for asylum with USCIS, the receipt notice that you get, the letter that says, hey, okay, we received your application and it's pending as of X date. It also says you have permission to remain in the United States while your case is pending, okay? So they're telling you, you can stay here. And people think that that means I've got legal immigration status. They really don't. What's the difference? Well, it's a distinction that for most purposes doesn't really matter, okay? For all intents and purposes, it's like you're here. The government's not going to try to kick you out while your case is pending. They're going to hear you out first, okay? But you don't have legal status, and this can have implications. It can be relevant to you under certain circumstances. It's relevant for this person who's being charged with a certain crime. It definitely comes into play in their case, okay? And then also, though, for purposes of something called maintenance of status or for unlawful status, where you accrue certain days out of status and unlawful status to make it to where once you finally leave the United States, a bar can apply for either 3 years or 10 years, depending on how much unlawful presence has accrued. Well, having an asylum application pending does keep that clock from counting up days of unlawful presence, which is good for you as an asylum seeker to not have unlawful presence. So it's good that you have an asylum application pending in that sense, and in certain other respects, but it's not the same as having legal status. Okay, just wanted to clear that up because I hear that a lot. It's not legal status, but you have permission to be here. Let's go to the questions. What about immigration court while asylum is pending with immigration court? It's the same thing in the sense that you have permission to be here. Like, you're not expected to leave. They're not going to force you to leave unless if you commit some kind of certain crimes, you might be detained and while your case is going on in immigration court. I mean, same for the asylum office, actually. They could put you in deportation proceedings while your case is pending at the asylum office. If you do something like commit certain crimes, they may detain you and put you in deportation proceedings without first giving you that interview at the asylum office. But to answer your question, in immigration court, it's the same in the sense that you're allowed to be here, but it doesn't give you any kind of legal immigration status until you win asylum. Then you're an asylee, and you can stay here. Okay. So if you want to talk in more detail about that, give us a call. I'm going to on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm putting the number on the screen. TikTok, go over to my profile and you'll find our phone number there. Give us a call if you want to talk about it. You can schedule an asylum strategy session with one of our asylum professionals so we can hear about what's going on with you, learn about your case, and tell you whether we think we can help you to secure your future in the United States through asylum. Do that. Call us, okay? We've got over on YouTube, Kofi says hello. We've got Diver City in Pittsburgh. We've got Marielle in Virginia. Nice. I've spent time in Virginia. I used to be a diplomat, and our diplomatic training facilities are in Northern Virginia, right next to Washington, D.C. So I spent like 3 different stints up there for about 2.5 years or 2 years cumulatively. And I love that area. I love Northern Virginia. I love Washington, D.C. It's one of my favorite cities in the world, in fact. I think D.C. is great. We got my man Badru watching from Massachusetts. Badru, as always, pleasure to see you. Thanks for being here. All right. All right, let's go to a question. Dan on YouTube asks, what is the TPS I applied for asylum? Can I also apply for TPS and any additional benefits? Thanks for the question, Dan. So the question is, what's the interplay between TPS and asylum? So if you've already got an asylum case pending, you've already applied for asylum, can you and should you apply for TPS? By the way, TPS stands for Temporary Protected Status. Not everyone is eligible for TPS. Only countries that have been designated as eligible for it, people from those countries, can apply for it. And if you're on a list, your country's on that list, then you can apply for it. And if you are eligible for it, then yes, you should apply for it. Even though you have asylum pending, you need to apply for TPS because it's just another layer of protection. It's going to keep you from getting deported. You can apply for it. You asked what benefits there are under it. You can apply for a work permit based on TPS, which I actually do recommend that you do, even though you've got one, I assume, based on your pending asylum case, because your pending asylum case could go away. And then you'd be left without a work permit unless you have one based on TPS. You can have 2 at the same time. I recommend that you do it. Okay. So yeah, if you think you may be eligible for TPS, do apply. Thanks for the question. All right. All right, man. Wow. So Manish says 7 years now, and all I do is keep reviewing paperwork. So Manish, if you've been waiting for 7 years, wow, for an asylum interview, oh man. So the question is, what can you do if you've been waiting 7 years for your asylum interview at the USCIS asylum office? You should sue the government. This is called a mandamus lawsuit, where you bring a suit and you're asking a federal judge to tell the asylum office that they need to take action on your case because the government has a responsibility to act in a reasonable time. And if they don't do that, you can sue them to make them do their job. 7 years waiting for your asylum interview is not reasonable. If you bring a lawsuit, you have a very high chance for success, a very high chance of the government lawyers saying, oh, we don't want to really fight this one. If you agree to drop the suit against us, we'll give you your interview and your decision. So I recommend that you sue. No, they won't hold it against you. It's not going to negatively impact your underlying asylum claim. People always ask that. I'm confident it will not. If you want to talk about suing the government, which we love doing, I love suing the government, give us a call, or in fact, book a consultation with me online. I'm going to put it on the screen what it looks like. This is what you're going to see over on YouTube and Facebook when you come to book a consultation with us. You're gonna do it online. It's going to take you about 20 seconds. Super easy. Go to winasylum.com. That's WINASYLUM.com. Winasylum.com to book your consultation with us, your asylum strategy session. That's what we call our consultations. It's an asylum strategy session where we're going to understand what's going on and tell you whether we think we can help you. And if so, how, what we're going to do to help you, which, by the way, is something that you should ask if you're shopping around for lawyers, if you're considering different lawyers that you may want to hire. ask them, okay, tell me concretely, what actual steps are you going to take to strengthen my case, to give me the best possible chance for success? Because most lawyers don't do very much. All right. I was an asylum officer at USCIS, the asylum office, and I was actually shocked there to see that most immigration lawyers do virtually nothing for their clients. They may help them a little bit filling out the application form, and that's about it. Almost none of them write a legal brief where they actually explain, hey, here's the facts of the case, and here's the application of those facts to the law to show you, officer, why my client should win asylum, why they deserve it. No one does that hardly. We do it. Hardly any other lawyers do. They don't do a good job in helping their client to get the best evidence possible, and they just don't know what they're talking about, most of them, honestly. But the point that I was trying to make is, when you're looking for lawyers, ask them, like, what are you going to do? So in our case, at my law firm, we always write a legal brief. Okay, we always do a practice interview, a full-scale mock interview from beginning to end, so that you know exactly what to expect on the day of the real interview. Okay, and other law firms don't do this. They're just like, oh, we'll just talk it over. Don't worry, we'll meet up 20 minutes before the interview, and I'll just kind of give you a few pointers and tell you what to expect. Nope, that is insufficient, my friends, to win asylum in the United States. You need to prepare a lot more than that. Your lawyer needs to be doing a lot more than that for you. Okay, so ask them what they're going to do. Are they going to write a legal brief? Are they going to do a full-scale mock interview with you? How are they going to help you to win your case? All right. All right. Next question. All right. Nice. Thank you. That's interesting. Hugh on YouTube talks about something we were talking about earlier. He says, that was a confusing question today, filling the form for TPS. The question was applicant status, and the drop-down options include asylum pending. Asylum pending doesn't give you status. Yeah, that's interesting. You're correct. It does not give you status. So it's interesting that would be an option. But they do want to know about that, because if you apply for TPS and they deny your TPS application, in some cases they will put people in deportation proceedings. Like, they'll say, oh, you don't have any legal status? Well, then you're eligible to be deported, so we're going to put you in deportation proceedings. However, if you have an asylum case pending, the policy of DHS is to not put you in deportation proceedings. Instead, say, okay, we'll give them a chance to have their case heard, and then we'll see what happens. But that's interesting. You're right. We've got Cool says, watching from Grand Rapids, Michigan. I bet isn't there a huge snowstorm right now in the Midwest? Isn't it terribly cold and snowy in the Midwest? Stay warm, stay safe up in Michigan. Okay, we've got a question from Kofi on YouTube who says, while asylum is pending, can you marry to get a green card? So thanks for the question, Kofi. Appreciate it. The question is whether you can get a green card through marriage while you have an asylum case pending. Generally speaking, good news. The answer is yes, you can. Okay. Having an asylum case pending won't necessarily keep you from getting any other status, including a green card through marriage. Okay. But there are some potential complications for people who are seeking asylum when they try to get another status. If you don't currently have legal status, remember, as we've been saying today, asylum pending is not legal status. If you don't have legal status based on something else, then you're not going to be able to change into another status, except for this scenario that you asked about getting married. You can get a green card through marriage, despite that you don't have status right now, and you can do that while your asylum case is pending. However, if you came to the United States without permission, like you didn't come on a visa, then it's a little bit more tricky. You're going to have to go through this process, this ordeal, where you're eventually going to have to leave the United States and get a immigrant visa and come back to get your green card. So it's trickier. Basically, the short answer is yes, it can be done. You can get status through marriage despite that you have an asylum case pending. But you need to talk to a lawyer about that to see in your particular case what the complications might be. All right. Thank you. Nice. Over on Facebook, Pete says, is that true that the work permit is coming now? It's good for 5 years now. Thanks for the question, Pete. The question is it true that work permits are now being issued for 5 years? So we're talking about the employment authorization document, also known as the EAD for its acronym, right? For its initials. And in the past, these were always issued for just 2-year increments, 2 years at a time. And so then you had to renew every 2 years. If your asylum case was pending more than 2 years, you had to apply to renew it. And that was a huge problem because it was taking like 18 months to get them renewed. So someone would apply right before their status expired, before their EAD expired, and not get their new one back for many months or even a couple of years. So it's a huge problem. So recently, USCIS changed the policy and said, we're going to start issuing them for 5 years. So to answer your question, yes, it's true that work permits now, based on pending asylum case, are going to be issued for 5 years and not just 2, which is really a good thing. So kudos to USCIS for making that policy change. Good job. I don't say that too often. Good job, USCIS, but that's a good one, right? Go to winasylum.com. Okay. Go to winasylum.com to book a consultation. Okay. If you want to get serious about getting asylum in the United States, you're ready to apply, or at least consider seriously applying, or if your case is stalled and you're serious now about maybe trying to secure your future, but take action to force your interview or force a decision in your pending asylum case, go to winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com, to schedule a consultation. Right now, we're offering free consultations, okay? We didn't used to. They used to all be paid. But right now, we're offering free consultations. So take advantage of that while it lasts, okay? All right. Nice. So Dan says, thanks a lot. Lots and lots, Brian. I'm a big fan from India, and I just got an EAD. Congrats. Nice work. Good job. Thank you for the kind words. Appreciate it. All right. Let's see. We've got... let's go to TikTok. All right. Okay. So on TikTok, we got a question where you said, my lawyer waived my master hearing. What does that mean? So the question is, what does it mean if your master calendar hearing in immigration court gets canceled or skipped or waived? So in immigration court, remember, there's usually 2 hearings. The first one's called a master calendar hearing, weird name. The second one is called an individual hearing, or maybe a hearing on the merits, or merits hearing. That's where you really fight your case and have to explain your case. The first one, the master hearing, is more administrative in nature. It's not super substantive. Sometimes things come up that can really have an impact, but usually it's pretty easy and administrative in nature. So sometimes when the judge sees that there's a lawyer involved in the case, they'll just cancel the first one. They'll be like, you know what? There's a judge here. We don't need to all show up and go through this process, when we can just have the lawyer do on paper what normally happens in person in immigration court during this hearing. So usually, in my opinion, that's a good thing. It needs to be done strategically, or your lawyer can ask for it. And we often ask for it because usually our clients are like, I want to get my case done as fast as possible. I want my chance to explain my case and fight my case and win my asylum as soon as possible. And the way that you can help to try to do that is to skip the master calendar hearing. If it hasn't been already canceled by the judge, you can ask the judge. You can say, look, judge, we're doing in writing, we're submitting to you everything that, we're doing in writing, what we would normally do in person. So we don't need to have this first hearing. So just please cancel it and schedule the main one, the individual hearing. And usually they'll say yes. So that can be a good way to try to speed up your case. And usually it's, in my opinion, a good idea. But there's some times where you won't want to do it. There can be strategic reasons that you need to have that first hearing, because you might need to argue about something and try to convince the judge of something at that hearing that is something that needs to be addressed at that stage rather than later. It's a little bit tricky. So that's something you should talk with an asylum lawyer about if you're considering trying to skip your master calendar hearing, your first hearing, okay? But in your case, well, I don't know about your particular situation, but usually it's okay. But you should ask your lawyer that question. In fact, if your lawyer had any choice in it, if your lawyer asked for it, or if the government lawyer asked your lawyer if your lawyer was okay with it, then your lawyer should have asked you before just saying yes. So I don't know if they had any say in it or not, but if they did, they should ask you because it's an important decision, and the client needs to be involved in making that decision. Okay. All right. All right. So on YouTube, Marwan says, should I have to change my address if I move from San Francisco to Los Angeles? Is it against the law if I kept my San Francisco address while living in Los Angeles? Thanks for the question. I appreciate it. So the question is, do you actually have to update your address when you move from one city to another, or can you just keep the old one on file? You need to change it. The answer is that, yeah, you need to change it. Okay. You're obliged to. USCIS and the immigration courts both have a rule that say you need to tell us right when you move. Okay. And not doing it can be problematic. So in the asylum office context for affirmative asylum cases, when you show up on the day of your interview, if you didn't tell them about the new address, so in the question you're moving from San Francisco to Los Angeles, if you show up at San Francisco on your interview day, they're going to be like, "Where do you live?" They're going to ask you to confirm your address, and you should tell the truth. If you tell the truth and give them your LA address, they're going to go, "Actually, you know what? We can't go forward with the interview today because you're not in our jurisdiction. We need to transfer your case to LA, and because they're the ones that need to deal with you now." So it's just going to slow things down even more, and it's going to be a problem. So, yeah, you do need to inform either USCIS or the immigration court, depending on where your case is. You need to do the proper procedure to inform them of your move. Okay. So nice. This is, I think Beth is asking on YouTube in reference to the conversation we were having earlier about how you can, it's easier to get the rules are more forgiving for people who are seeking a green card through marriage than through employment, and they're more flexible, let's say. And on YouTube, Beth says, if it can be done through marriage, why not through work? And then, this is unbelievably stupid. Well, I appreciate your frustration. Yeah, the way that it's set up is that our immigration laws were created with the first and foremost goal in mind of what they call family unification. It's like we stress the ability prioritize the ability of families to be together to help people get status through family, to keep families and bring families together. So that stuff gets priority. That's the reason why it's easier, more flexible to be able to do it through marriage than through employment. Okay. There's a lot of people that want to change that. A lot of people that think, no, our immigration policies need to be updated and changed to prioritize, our economy by prioritizing employment-based immigration and making that easier, making that be the focus of our laws. Other countries have that, like Canada is much more in that vein. And because of that, they get a lot of talent for business purposes that we're missing out on because they're more flexible and make it easier to do business there. It's not like it's easy, but in some ways it's easier to immigrate to Canada based on business. All right. All right. On YouTube, Scott says, I applied for my I-730. It's been more than 3 months. How long will it take more? Well, Scott, have you gotten a receipt notice that says, hey, we accept it, we received it, it's accepted, and it's pending, we'll get to it later? If you have not received that receipt notice, that's kind of problematic. But the fact that you have not received a decision on it yet is not, because the processing time for that, last I checked, maybe a month ago, was like 18 months, a year and a half for USCIS on average to make a decision on this form I-730. And I-730 is the petition that you make after you win asylum. You petition with this to try to bring family members who are abroad, your spouse and your children who are under 21 and not married. You can use this form to ask to bring them from abroad to the United States on the basis of your asylum status. But last I checked, it was like 18 months processing time. So that's why you haven't gotten a decision. Okay. You can ask to expedite it if your family abroad is in danger, or they have some other kind of need, like maybe a medical need that is not met in their country, but they could get the treatment for it here. you can use that as a reason to ask to expedite this process, the I-730 process. We recently had success with this for one of our clients, both with expediting his asylum interview and then expediting his I-730 because his family was in danger abroad. And we explained that, we showed evidence, and we had declarations, and that's how we got both of those things expedited, sped up. So give us a call. The number on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn is below. On TikTok, go to my profile and check out the number. Give us a call if you want to schedule a consultation so that we can talk about your situation and strategize about how to get you where you want to go so that you can secure your future in the United States through Asylum. You can also, it's actually even easier than calling to just go book online. Go to winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. Select a time that works for you to talk with one of our asylum professionals. Right now, it's free. Okay, we're offering it for free right now, so take advantage. Give us a call or go online to winasylum.com, and we will be very happy to chat with you about your situation. All right, I want to hear about it. Let's see. Seeking asylum with a C1D visa, what are my expectations? This is a little bit tricky. C1D is for crewmen of like ships and a transit visa. It's a combined crewman/transit visa. And it depends on what you were admitted as. If you were admitted as a crewman, you're ineligible for asylum. If you were admitted in transit, then you can seek asylum just like normal, just like anyone else. This is pretty in the weeds, as we say. It's a very specific sort of fact-dependent thing that you need to talk to an asylum lawyer about, okay? This is true. So Luca says, if an asylum applicant travels outside of the U.S. after USCIS refers the case to EOIR, it means the applicant deports themselves. Yeah, it's true. It's like, it doesn't matter whether USCIS sent you to immigration court or whether you were immediately placed in immigration court proceedings after coming to the United States. Like if you came without a visa, if you came to the southern border, for example, anyone who's in immigration court, anyone is deporting themselves if they leave the country while they're in deportation proceedings. And it counts as a deportation order. It's like a self-executing deportation order, which has implications, it has negative consequences where you can't come back to the United States for 10 years. Even if you had like got married to a U.S. citizen, it can make that impossible, make coming back based on that impossible for 10 years because you've got this deportation order. There's some exceptions, but generally speaking, yeah, it's going to mess it up. It's going to mess up a lot of things. So that goes to this next question, which is Ishwar asks, can one get advanced parole if one is in immigration court or USCIS? The question is whether you can get advanced parole and whether you can get it if you're with USCIS, your asylum cases, or whether your asylum cases with the immigration courts in EOIR. That's just like what they call the immigration court body that runs them. If you are in immigration court proceedings, if your asylum case is with EOIR in immigration court, no, you can't get advanced parole. What's advanced parole? It's a document that says this person has permission to leave and come back into the United States. Well, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to get let back in, but it almost does. It makes it very, very likely that when you come back to the airport or the land border, that the Customs and Border Protection officer is going to go, oh, okay, yeah, you got that document, you can come in. Okay, you can get that and travel abroad and have a pretty high expectation of being let back in if you are an asylum seeker with your case pending with USCIS, but not an immigration court. Not an immigration court. USCIS won't give it to you. Even if they make a mistake and they give it to you, you shouldn't use it. You're not going to get let back in. It's going to be counted as a self-deportation that I just talked about for leaving the country while you're in immigration court proceedings. It's a self-executing deportation order. Okay, it's like automatic. So don't do that. Nice. You are from Burkina Faso, Ouagadougou. Are you impressed that I knew that? I used to be a diplomat, and so I have friends who worked at the embassy in Ouagadougou, and I've heard lovely things about the people in Burkina Faso. The question, though, is I'd like to tell you, thank you for the comment. Thank you very much. I get granted asylum this week from the New York Asylum Office. Your videos helped me a lot. I was waiting for that since 2016. Wow. Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you for saying that. Congratulations to you for winning asylum. Man, 2016. So it took you like almost 8 years probably. Wow, that's a long wait. Congratulations. Good job on sticking with it and fighting to the end. And congratulations on your victory. That's really good news. That's really good news. And thank you for commenting and saying that my videos helped you. That's a very lovely thing to hear. I'm glad I was able to help. Congratulations. Okay. All right. This question on YouTube: how do the officers look at taxes and business performance during asylum pending time? Thanks for the question, Resconnect. So the question here is, do the asylum officers consider whether someone is paying their taxes and like how they're doing with the business, if they're a business owner, how that stuff is going? Is this going to affect your asylum interview at the asylum office? The answer, unfortunately, is no. I guess it's not necessarily unfortunate. It could be fortunate for some people, but no. They don't look or know whether you've paid your taxes. They don't care whether you own a business. They don't care whether, if you do, whether your business is going well or not. Even if you employ a bunch of people through your business in the United States, still not a thing. Doesn't matter. They don't care about that stuff because that does not directly affect asylum eligibility. Asylum eligibility, the core 3 questions are: were you harmed in the past in a way that was sufficiently severe to rise to the level of persecution? Were you severely harmed in the past? Second question, is it likely that you're going to be severely harmed in the future? Okay. Third key question is, what is the reason for the harm? Is the harm motivated, at least in significant part, by the fact that you, asylum applicant, possess one of the 5 protected characteristics under U.S. asylum law? Those are your race, religion, nationality, political opinion, membership in a particular social group. What did I say? Oh, race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, and political opinion. Okay, those are the 5. That's what this officer cares about, are those 3 things. Okay, past harm, future harm, and what they call nexus. In other words, that the harm is motivated by one of those 5 protected grounds: race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion. Okay. So stuff about like whether you paid your taxes doesn't matter. Not interested. So don't waste your time trying to talk about that stuff. This is actually a major mistake. Okay. We often see, when I was an asylum officer, I saw this a lot, and I see people want to do this a lot now as an asylum lawyer, but I tell them not to. People are inclined to want to show the officer things like this. Like, look, I pay my taxes. Look, I own a business. It's succeeding. I employ Americans. It's great. I'm a good person. I'm impressive. They don't care about any of that. Okay. Do not waste your time trying to force that stuff into your asylum interview. Okay. They want to know whether you meet the requirements for asylum. They want to know mainly about those 3 things I just talked about: past persecution, whether you're going to be persecuted in the future, and nexus. In other words, whether the harm is on account of one of the 5 protected grounds. So you want to use your time that you have to explain to the officer your case. You want to use it to address those 3 things. Tell them the facts and details about those 3 things. Okay. All right. That's it for tonight. Wrapping up. Thanks for all of your questions and comments. As always, it's truly a pleasure to be with you. Give us a call to schedule a consultation, and we'll be happy to talk with you. I love hearing from you guys in these lives, but I love talking with you one-on-one, more personally, to hear about your actual situation in your life and what you're trying to achieve, and working with you to strategize about how to get you where you want to go with your immigration situation. So that's it. Thanks. We'll be live soon. So I look forward to seeing everyone again.